guys in the dark.
I worked at Walmart for about 2 years right out of high school. My first department was pets, where I had received no training whatsoever. The only animals in the department were fish, but I had to learn about it, and that I can't sell fish with or put more fish in with the fish that have ick. Now I had to learn all this from a book that we sold on fish care and customers. My manager and the guy working with me never bothered to tell me any of this. I was often left alone. So many fish had come through and died in that store. And now whenever I pass the fish at the Walmart that I live at now, I just feel awful for them. I knew nothing about fish care. I made that clear when they had given me the job. I didn't know that you couldn't just toss a new fish into the bowl. It would get shock and die. You have to put the bag the fish comes in into the water to slowly change the temperature. Never dump that fish right into the new water when you're done. The fear of unions can be crazy there. Has been stated in the past stories. I was once talking about a family reunion I had attended. One manager had went into full sprint up to me, demanded to know why I had said the word union, when I told her that it was a reunion, not a union. She didn't believe me, decided to tear me down right there in the sales floor. Lucky for me, a few other employees that I was talking to stood up for me, and told her that she heard wrong. Now I've worked a lot of retail, and anywhere you work you will find favoritism. But I never saw it worse than at Walmart. One of those store managers was in a not-so-secret relationship with a guy who happened to work in electronics with us. The thing is, you didn't know that he worked in electronics. Nobody would blame you. He'd get to work, and they would just go to the smoke room for the entire day. They would often take a company vehicle to the store's off-site storage facility and not come back all day. They even did this after we had a big store meeting about losing the storage facility, which resulted in our back room taking in all of the stock that we had. The manager had his own problems, for sure, as he was obviously lying to his wife and children about his barely legal gay lover, but we had to pay the price, always one person short in that department. During my 2 years, I saw people break down, freak out, steal, lie, cheat, and so many sad workers who had no other option but to keep on going. People who had worked there and helped build the store when it was being forced down to part-time and losing their benefits. The angriest customers and the more baffling of idiots. I watched a woman vomit right in front of the video game cases, look at all of us, shrug it off, and then walk away, come back 20 minutes later to see if we had cleaned it up, and laughed at us. I used to do field service for Walmarts in Portland, Oregon area. The East Portland stores were especially fun. The Wood, Village, Eastport Plaza, and Happy Valley stores are relatively close together, and we techs referred to them as the Gauntlet. The Eastport Plaza store was especially active. We nicknamed that one the Thunderdome. Every visit, we would witness an arrest, or something more exciting or disgusting. Last Christmas, for instance, while Frank Sinatra's version of Mistletoe and Holly was playing, a dude was totally face-planted by some cops after resisting arrest, in the process damaging the automatic doors and knocking over a display. Another time, a tech had witnessed the arrest of the hottest-looking hooker ever on 82nd Street, being cuffed and stuffed into the parking lot. One day, I arrived at the Thunderdome, noticed that I could not get the customer service desk to go check in. Several workers were not allowing people to pass. There was also a number of orange cones marking the restricted area. A quick whiff indicated what my eyes later had confirmed. Shit was all over the floor. The men's room is right next to the customer service area. Eventually they had to break out the Zamboni machine to finish cleaning up. I had about 10 registers to work on there that day. They beat the hell out of their equipment in that store. And after 2 hours, I was ready to take a leak and go check out. They still weren't letting anybody into that men's room. God only knows what kind of horrors there must have been in there.
For context, both my fiancé and I work at Walmart. We live in a smaller town in Colorado, and right now there's a stage 2 fire ban due to all the fiery shit going on. Meaning, you can't even smoke a cigarette outside without potentially getting a $1,000 fine. Also worth mentioning that because we live in such a small town, The cops and the fire department don't have much else to do than patrol the parking lots for public cigarette smoking. Anyway, we both smoke cigarettes, and both of our cars have different issues right now, so we've been sharing one car. We can only smoke in our cars on our breaks for now. And since he was working and I wasn't, I visited him on his break so that we can spend a few minutes and have a cigarette together. I pulled up to the front of Walmart, and thinking that he would only take a minute to get to me, I put on my emergency lights and waited. After a couple of minutes, a car drives past me, but slows down and rolls his windows down a bit without saying anything. The guy in the car didn't stop, call out, or even stare at me for very long before parking, but something still creeped me out a little bit. I called my fiancé and told him to try and hustle a little bit, mentioning the guy that weirded me out. I understand I had my emergency lights on, but I mean, people do this outside of Walmart for brief amounts of time all day long. And who conveniently breaks down in front of Walmart anyways? While still on the phone with my fiancé, whom I can see walking towards my car from the second entrance at this point, I noticed the guy get out of his car and walk into Walmart through my rear view. But instead of continuing in, he cuts immediately towards the side door that I was parked by. He comes out the side door, and I see him holding what looks like a baseball bat. So I'm freaking out at this point, because this guy starts walking towards my car at the same time my fiancé is also walking up close to my car. Creepy guy gets into the right corner of my hood, standing there with what I can see is a 2 to 3 foot long sword with a sheath over it, looking past my car like he's looking for someone, or pretending to look for someone. This guy also had a fucking assortment of knives that slid into a belt around his waist. I managed only a few glances at his face without trying to be noticed, but I could definitely tell this guy was on drugs. Hard to tell which one, but I could guess meth based on his eyes and paranoid actions. Fiancé finally approaches the passenger door when Meth Man turns to him, and I'm ready to lay on the horn, or something as a distraction. But the Meth Man surprisingly doesn't do anything, but spontaneously walk past him, and Fiancé finally gets into my car. This guy just keeps walking. I pull away and park further into the parking lot. My fiancé and I talk a little bit about how scared we both were, not knowing what the hell this guy was doing. A little more terrifying, my car had been giving me trouble on the way there, and so I test drive it around the lot with my fiancé during his break, only proving the problem more urgent. My fiancé was only on a 15-minute break, so I had him call our police department and report this, just asking them to come check it out since he had 2 hours left, and I was tripping out after Meth Man had seen both our faces. I was scared that he might follow my love into Walmart with his fucking sword and try something, or follow me home. He saw my car, my license plate, and both of us drive around the lot during our test drive. After the cops came and tracked my fiancé down in the aisle that he was stalking, they got the description and immediately knew who he was. Turns out they knew where he lived. It was in a trailer park across the street from Walmart, and they actually had been watching out for him because of a previous incident with a security guard at our store. The incident went like this. Security guard stopped him for something. Guy came back a few days later and asked the security guard, "What are you still doing in my town?" To which the security guard replied, "What do you mean? I live here." Not for long. Like, what the fuck? I feel like it's also important to mention that we live in a small, tourist attraction town, and the local population is predominantly rich, older people, because it's a nice retirement town, but it's very expensive here. You see people strapping AKs to their Jeeps, no kidding, but not meth heads with swords. Anyways, I guess they found him in the parking lot, and warned him that if he was seen around Walmart again, let alone carrying anything larger than a 10-inch knife, he was going to be arrested. Haven't seen him since, and I'm glad. Guns are scary, no doubt, but in our town, a lot of people keep them on their waist, so it's not as alarming. However, creepy, drugged-looking man with a 2-foot sword in his hand, I really don't want to see you ever again.
This lady was standing in line at the customer service desk with a young boy sitting in her cart. He keeps whining that he needs to go to the bathroom. She keeps telling him to wait because she happens to be busy. A few more minutes pass by. It's her turn at the counter. Suddenly, her kid just lets loose all over the floor. More pee than I thought such a small child was capable of producing. The other customers around her obviously step back. I'm working that register that sells cigarettes and has the main money till with our other supplies. So I'm the closest to the paper towels and go to bring them over to her. The mom looks down at her son, rolls her eyes at him, then proceeds to ask the service desk employee where she can go fill out a job application. When she left, she stepped around her son's pee puddle, shrugged her shoulders at all of us like, what are you going to do about it? It's not my problem. And then she just leaves the store like nothing happened. I used to do field service for Walmarts in Portland, Oregon area. The East Portland stores were especially fun. The Wood, Village, Eastport Plaza, and Happy Valley stores are relatively close together, and we techs referred to them as the Gauntlet. The Eastport Plaza store was especially active. We nicknamed that one the Thunderdome. Every visit, we would witness an arrest, or something more exciting or disgusting. Last Christmas, for instance, while Frank Sinatra's version of Mistletoe and Holly was playing, a dude was totally face-planted by some cops after resisting arrest, in the process damaging the automatic doors and knocking over a display. Another time, a tech had witnessed the arrest of the hottest-looking hooker ever on 82nd Street, being cuffed and stuffed into the parking lot. One day, I arrived at the Thunderdome. Noticed that I could not get the customer service desk to go check in. Several workers were not allowing people to pass. There was also a number of orange cones marking the restricted area. A quick whiff indicated what my eyes later had confirmed. Shit was all over the floor. The men's room is right next to the customer service area. Eventually, they had to break out the Zamboni machine to finish cleaning up. I had about 10 registers to work on there that day. They beat the hell out of their equipment in that store. And after 2 hours, I was ready to take a leak and go check out. They still weren't letting anybody into that men's room. God only knows what kind of horrors there must have been in there.
So this happened about 13 years ago. I was 10 at the time. My brother was 8. We had just moved to a new town that year, and the Walmart here had this sweet arcade up near the service desk. So every time my parents would bring us grocery shopping, they'd give us each a few dollars and let us play in the arcade. The town had an incredibly low crime rate, and the arcade is at the front of the store where dozens of people are checking out, so what could possibly go wrong? My brother is playing the claw machine while I'm standing at the side of the machine, trying to help him angle the claw perfectly above a stuffed animal he's trying to get. Suddenly, this random hillbilly walks up to the claw machine next to us, inserts a quarter, and begins moving the claw around. But for most of this time, he's making eye contact with my brother and smiling, not even watching the game. He's not talking to us, just staring and smiling. He has long, thin brown and silver hair, pulled back in a loose ponytail at the base of his skull, a camo trucker hat, and a long, scraggly beard. I remember vividly the way that he smelled: stale beer, ashtray, and something that smelt like a sweet yet sour dirt or fungus. He tries making small talk with my brother and I, who were raised to be aware of strangers, but still be polite to them. Eventually, we get bored of the game we're playing, and I usher my brother to follow me to a new game. On the opposite side of the arcade, a few seconds later, the man follows us, stationing himself once again at the claw machine next to us. At some point, an overweight lady walks in, says hi to the hillbilly. "What are you doing to these little kids?" and snickers at me. He replies, "I'm trying to win them some stuffed animals." And then she begins playing the claw on the other side of us, so that my brother and I are sandwiched between these two strange hillbillies. His comment comes across as weird to me, because previously I thought he was maybe trying to win something for his kids. But this entire time, he'd just been following my brother and I from game to game, trying to win us toys. This has been going on for maybe 20 minutes at this point. They followed us to several different machines and spent a lot of money. The games were all 25 cents per play. Each time my brother and I switched machines, they'd follow us. The hillbilly says to the lady, "I'm out of money. Do you got any?" She says, "Nah, I'm broke too." My brother says that I have $1 still. Now this is the part that really scares me. I remember listening to these two talk about some weird things with us, asking if I have a boyfriend, asking where we go to school, where our parents work, asking if we've ever done drugs. But when my brother said he had $1, she responded with the most terrifying thing that I've ever heard from them yet. The woman suddenly bursts out, "Well, shit, then give it to him, boy." Her face was red. The tone in which she shouted was so ear-piercing and gut-wrenching that I could feel the blood drain from my face. My brother looked like he was about to cry. He hands her the $1, and her face lights up. She laughs it off, almost like she's trying to make it seem like she was joking when she yelled at us. My father walked up a couple minutes later. As I turned to tell him what those people have spent close to $15 to win toys for us, they leave hurriedly before he gets a good look at them. My dad is livid. He takes us up to the front desk and tells them what I told him. They make an announcement to the intercom to keep an eye out for these people and to report to an employee if they see them. Then they call the police. I don't actually remember this part, or much of anything after my father arrives, but this is what he told me. They never did find the couple. The police reviewed security cameras, too blurry to make out any physical details, and told my parents that the couple left the store immediately after my father showed up, without any groceries. Every time I see a man or woman in Walmart that looks as I remember them, I get anxiety and try to avoid them. So, to the hillbilly couple lurking in Walmart, I hope to never, ever see you again. I almost forgot to mention that the two seemed to be in their mid-50s from what I remembered. I believe that they were a couple, but I don't know for sure. I don't think that she was his mother, though. It seems a few people thought they were mother and son based on the way that I explained it, so I do apologize for all of that.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night, and I'll see you next time.